there, Will, all the big news about the split between the president and the first lady.
I think sub-editors are having a field day with this story, trying to come up with all the puns they can. Let's look at a few of the front pages over the weekend. The New York Post ran, the French lady is French toast. The first lady is French toast, pack your baguettes. While Ireland's Sunday Independent called it an end to le scandale. C'est fini. Aoife Drew wrote, La vie en rose is no more. Let's look at the UK's Daily Mail. They put their own touch on the story. Face of a scorned First Lady, they say, headlining, I still love Hollande, insists jilted Valerie. These images are kind of like the infotainment we know the Daily Mail so often covers. Some in the Élysée fear Valérie Trierweiler is a loose cannon, and the piece says she's accompanied by her old chief of staff to, quote, keep an eye on her.
But how are people here in France dealing with the story?
That's an interesting thing. The New York Times tries to tackle this topic, and they look at the cultural divide between France and the U.S. And what they say is in the U.S., the First Lady plays a role that's a public role, a sort of activist, a wife, and she can pursue the sort of issues that are dear to her. In France, it's not that way, and many people think that it should be a private issue and there shouldn't be any formal role. 3/4 of the French public say this relationship between Hollande and Trierweiler should be, a private matter, and that it should sort of be the end of this archaic role to the French First Lady.
Let's move on to something a bit less frivolous, if you like. Let's go now to Geneva, where peace talks are being held now, obviously, over Syria's civil war. On Sunday, the Syrian government agreed that women and children could indeed leave the besieged city of Homs. That's
right. Now, Syrian writer Reem Aleph is writing about this in The Guardian. He says that the peace process is nothing, it couldn't be more than what it already is, just like long drawn-out talks, and that this is exactly what President Bashar al-Assad wants, a long drawn-out process. And the international community failed to deliver a process that made them stick to 2012 agreements. Alaf writes that in that case, Geneva would do more harm than good to Syria, leaving Assad and his followers with the delusions that he is invincible and an irreplaceable partner in Syria. Now, in the Daily Telegraph, Rania Banya Al-Marja writes of the horrors facing families in Syria. She has relatives that live outside Damascus, and she says over the past 3 years, many have lost their livelihoods, their homes, and even their lives. Her Yamruk suburb of Damascus has seen its population dwindled from 200,000 to 20,000 people in 3 years. And they say that this has been done under a campaign by the Syrian regime called Submission or Starvation. And now the regime is now changing that in light of the progress in Geneva, this alleged progress, to a don't bite the hand that could feed you campaign, as many people are trying to look for aid coming in after the talks.
There's no easy solution there. Will, let's go on now to France and China, where it seems the two countries could be kindred spirits, at least when it comes to their love of wine.
That's right. In the Burgundy and Bordeaux provinces, there's been a rapid increase of Chinese students at wine programs. And what they're saying is that some of the increase has been as 33% or as high as 200% over the past few years, Chinese students enrolling for all sorts of programs, many of whom return to China, but this has also sparked some xenophobia here in France. They're worried that maybe China could become more important than France on the global market for wine. And what they're saying is there's no reason to fear that. It would be a boom to both economies. Bordeaux has 8,000 chateaus, and some 70 have been bought by Chinese investors in the past couple of years. And some analysts predict China's wine consumption could double by 2016, making it the second largest market in the world.
One thing that France is still a champ at, fortunately, is handball.
That's right. On Sunday, Les Bleus beat the Danish squad 41-32. It was the highest scoring European final of all time. L'Equipe says only happiness with a photo of Nikola Karabatic. He was named the player of the tournament, this a year after being embroiled in a match-fixing scandal at the club level here in France. Aujourd'hui in France called the team indestructible. They've won the last 9 major finals. That includes the Euro, the World, and the Olympics, an unbeaten streak dating back to the mid-1990s.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, William Hildebrand, for that look at today's press. Well, we're going to take a break now, but do stay with us. When we come back, we'll have a special report in focus examining Franco-Chinese relations 50 years after France was one of the first Western nations to recognize the People's Republic. The question is, 5 decades on, is that friendship a two-way street? That plus the latest headlines coming up in just a minute.